Pascal Siakam has been traded to the Indiana Pacers. So, an hour or two ago, Adrian Woj came out and said that Pascal Siakam will be traded to the Indiana Pacers for a couple players and 3 first-round picks, which we will talk about in a second. And this is a really huge trade for the Pacers. But before we get into that trade and all the teams that surrounded about it and how I feel about it, what's their grade, there is one thing we need to do. Let's hear that intro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another What's Next on Basketball YouTube video. I am your host, as always, Jeremy, and as you saw from the intro here, we're going to be talking about the big trade that just happened earlier today. So, in a report by Adrian Woj, it said that the Toronto Raptors are sending Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers for, it was Bruce Brown, Jordan Wara, I think is how you say his last name, and 3 first-round picks. And this is obviously to nobody's surprise, because yesterday on Tuesday there were reports that the Pacers and Raptors were in talks, active talks, of trading Pascal Siakam. So we knew this trade was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And now, it happened. And also, it is a 3-team deal. So this also included the New Orleans Pelicans that traded away Kira Lewis Jr. to the Raptors as well. So overall, I'll say this trade was pretty good. We're going to go through each team and how I feel about it, and then we'll also give a grade at the end for each team. Now, of course, let's talk about the big one, the Indiana Pacers. So the Indiana Pacers got Pascal Siakam, and this is a huge, huge piece for them. The Indiana Pacers are currently playoff contenders. I would say they're playoff contenders as of recording. I think they're around the 6th, 7th seed. But with this piece of game, Pascal Siakam, I do think that this does make them a 5th seed, 6th seed range, just because they already have a great team around them. And it seemed like they really needed somebody that could help Tyrese Halliburton, during their offense, like just some help for him. So again, someone like Pascal, who is a great, I shouldn't say great shooter, but it is, he's a pretty good scorer. He's got some really good points stats this season. So that was a huge piece to get. Now, I know a lot of people were really skeptical about it and don't know if this is worth the trade for the Pacers, because he is on an expiring contract. So people were saying how this is a huge risk for the Pacers because there's a good chance he might not re-sign. And to make matters worse, there were reports that Pascal Siakam was saying that wherever team he lands on, that he doesn't want to sign a new contract with them. But then more reports came out from sources saying that Pascal Siakam was very excited to play with the Indiana Pacers and is willing to talk, contract stuff. So it seems like Pascal Siakam will potentially stay with the Pacers. I think this was a good risk by the Pacers, taking something like that and, really going forward with it, trying to make it succeed. I personally think this will end up helping them in the long run. I do think Pascal will stay with the team just because when you look at the Indiana Pacers, they are one of the youngest. I don't know if they're one of the youngest, but they're one of the best young teams out there in the NBA, and they look like playoff contenders. And you get to play beside one of the best young point guards in the league right now. So I would say this is huge for him, and I wouldn't see why he wouldn't re-sign. But let's say with the case that he does end up not re-signing after this season, it's not like you gave up really too much away. Well, I know some people will be like, well, you gave up Bruce Brown, Jordan Woa, I apologize. I think it's Wara, something like that. I know they said the N is silent for his name, so I think it's Wara. Jordan Wara was just like that filler piece for the trade. The big one was really Bruce Brown, and I don't. He's a good player. He is very good. He was great with the Nuggets, but I don't think he'll be a piece that like they're gonna be like, oh my god, like the team's gonna be awful now without him. He was. I was honestly surprised with the Pacers. I think this was huge for them that they really didn't have to give much of their young core away, because I was really curious as to because that was the reports that the Indiana Pacers were potentially going to trade away 3 first rounds, and I was like, why are they giving away 3 first rounds for Pascal Siakam? Again, I just praised Pascal Siakam and how great of a player he is, but I don't think he's worth 3 first rounds in my opinion. But that makes sense now because the Pacers were like, we're not going to give you any of our young guys, but we're willing to give you as many picks as you want. And for a team like the Raptors, that we'll talk about again later, a team that is on more of the rebuild phase, which I did predict. It's just funny to think about the Raptors because I think it was the video I made about my predictions for the NBA season when it came to like the stand-ins and where all the teams are gonna go. There was a comment that someone did where they were kind of mad at me from having their team, aka the Toronto Raptors. I think I said they were going to be like the 13th seed or something. I basically said that they weren't going to make the playoffs or the play-in just because I felt like they're leaning towards a rebuild phase, and I don't really see the future for them, like just not that bright, at least for this, for this season. And the guy was like, "Oh, um, how could you say that about the Raptors? The Raptors are definitely going to make the playoffs or the play-in. There's no way that they won't make it." And I was telling him like, yeah, that's true. I told him I was like, there's a good chance that they'll make it. I just feel like they aren't going to make it and that they're going to start their rebuild. And then he texted me saying, watch, you better be careful or whatever. He basically told me like that to be careful because he's going to come back and tell me like how the Raptors are the best when the season ends. And well, it doesn't look like the Raptors are going to be contending anytime soon. So that was, I thought, was kind of funny. But back to the whole thing again, it was just really cool that they didn't have to train much of their young core. I thought that was huge news for them, especially now getting Pascal Siakam. So now you have Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and Miles Turner that seem like they look like they're, I wouldn't say big three that a lot of, the media is trying to say, but it's definitely a good team to have around Tyrese. So again, I do think they're going to be like a fifth, sixth seed. So that's great news for them. But again, if they don't get Pascal Siakam after this season, like they don't re-sign him, at the end of the day, the picks that they did trade, I think one of them was originally theirs, but the other picks were from like other teams, and those picks from like all those teams that they traded to the Raptors, they are like they're both contending teams, so most likely those picks will end up in like the late first round, which again you could get a really good guy in the late first round, but the Pacers aren't really in the rebuild phase anymore. Like they're not really trying to get more draft picks. They found their guy, it's Tyrese Halliburton, and now they're going to try to build around him and help him contend because Tyrese Halliburton is having an extraordinary season. Very, very incredible season. Something that I don't think anybody expected to happen this early on in his season. Again, I say he's becoming one of the best young point guards in the league right now. So that's awesome for the Pacers to see. It sucks that the Kings could have had this guy because I was one of the people that was really upset. I was like, why didn't they just trade De'Aaron Fox instead of Tyrese Halliburton? Because I did see a lot of, high potential for Tyrese. Now, I didn't see him go this high. I'll admit that. I don't think he was going to be at this level this soon, but I did think he was going to be a good point guard for the Kings. Then they traded him, and of course, I think it was beneficial for both sides at the end of the day. But again, this isn't about the Kings and the Pacers trade. As for this current trade with the Pacers, I think that's all I really have to say. I think this is a big risk again for the Pacers, but I think it's a risk that in the long run that they're gonna be happy that they took. Now, as for the next team, it's the Toronto Raptors. So the Toronto Raptors, I would say, also did very, very well with this trade. They got back 3 first-round picks, which again, it looks like they're on their rebuild phase, so getting back 3 first rounds is huge for them. You got back Bruce Brown, which again, he's a good player, so that could help, your young guys when it comes to developing them and stuff. Jordan War, again, he's just a filler piece, not much to say there. I know the New Orleans Pelicans also gave them Kira Lewis Jr., I don't think that might be another filler piece. I apologize, but I don't know much about Kira Lewis Jr., to be quite honest with you all, so I don't really know his game like that, if it'll be beneficial or not. Any Pelicans fans out there, please let me know if how Raptors fans should feel. Like in the comments, let Raptors fans know how they should feel about Kira Lewis Jr. Same thing with the Pacers. Let them know about Bruce Brown and Jordan, and how they are as players and if they'll be beneficial for them. The Raptors, obviously, I'm sure there's more trades to come for the Raptors, but near the end of the year, they obviously traded OG Anunoby to my New York Knicks, which was huge for the Knicks and huge for the Raptors because they end up getting two guys, young guys that have been very well for them. RJ Barrett, which overall so far playing with them has been looking at very high potential. It's been looking like a very good player. Same thing with IQ, which we already knew he was going to be a great player. And obviously, Scotty Barnes has been doing his thing. Hopefully, they try to build around Scotty Barnes. I think that's the way to go for the Raptors. But overall, yeah, I thought this was great. I know some people are trying to say like the Raptors fleeced the Pacers. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think they did a great job. Anything else I want to say about the Raptors? I think that's really it. I think, I think it was bound to happen. Pascal didn't seem like he was going to stay with the Raptors after his contract ended. I talked about before how Pascal should get traded. There was many reports these past couple weeks saying that Pascal is going to get traded, so this was no surprise to them. At least they were able to get back something in return instead of losing him for nothing, I would say. So, yeah. As for the last team on here, because again, it was a 3-team deal, it's the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, for them, it's more so like, money-wise that it's good for them because this helped them go back under the luxury tax. Because I found this out from some sources that apparently in the history of, the Pelicans, they never have been over the luxury tax. So this helped them stay under it again, trading away Kira Lewis Jr. that had like an 18 mil contract. I think it was 17, 18 mil. And now this makes them have more open space to get another player if they really need one, that on a cheaper deal. I know they're supposed to get back some kind of money in return. I heard from some sources it might be around like 100,000 they'll get in return. They didn't get a player back, so it is what it is. But of course, they have to get something. If they're trading something away, they're going to get something back in return. Now, again, I haven't heard anything of what that is and how much it will be that they get back. But for them, it at least helps them, I guess, money-wise. Nothing much to say about the Pelicans. And yeah, I think it's just time to head to the grades. We'll start with the Pelicans since I already mentioned them. I'm gonna give them I guess a C. They trade away Kira Lewis Jr., you're getting back money. It's like, it's okay. Nothing too crazy about that. As for the Toronto Raptors, I'm gonna give the Toronto Raptors a B plus, just because I think it was great that you got back 3 first-round picks. It sucks that you had to give away Pascal Siakam, and I feel like they should have tried to trade him earlier than they did. They probably could have gone back even more, but it's still a great trade for them. They got back some guys that could help the team at least somewhat compete, or help the young guys at least. So I'm going to give them a B plus. As for the Indiana Pacers, you guys are going to get an A, because again, I praised about how much this is huge for you guys when it comes to getting Pascal Siakam. It is a big risk. I do think it's a big risk, but I'm going to give you guys an A. And I think that's overall all I want to talk about. Like, this was just going to be a quick video just going over the trade. I think I went over everything. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. If I did, you guys can let me know down in the comments. But now, let me know your guys' opinion on the trade. Do you think this was a good trade for either the Pacers or the Raptors or the Pelicans, if you want to talk about them for some reason? Do you agree with the grades that I chose? I would love to hear your guys' grade on the trade and your opinion. So please let me know down in the comments. And yeah, that's all I really have to say. That's the end of this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, again, comment down below, share this video with others, all that stuff. And as always, I am your host, Jeremy, and I am signing off for the day. Have a great day, everybody.